My food addiction and me. The 10 life lessons my food addiction has taught me. A few years ago, I had the idea to write a book. The book was meant to be called Love and Nourish, all about loving yourself and nourishing yourself with delicious and nutritious food. I was excited to write it, so I planned it all out. I decided I was going to wake up at 4 a.m. a few mornings a week at least and begin to write. But then nothing. Well, not completely nothing. I did actually wake up like 3 or 4 mornings at 4 a.m., but it felt hard. The words wouldn't come and the motivation left. It just left my body. So instead of forcing myself, I put the idea to the side until the time felt right. But the idea never left my head. And late last year, it felt like time to write my book. I had already released a collection of poems and short stories, but now was the time for something different. And as my mind is always coming up with ideas, I began to think about writing a 3-part series. And this idea came from nowhere, to write about my food addiction and the lessons that it has taught me over the years. From there, the idea grew, but then it became too big to be limited to a 3-part series. It had to be a book. It was the book. So for the last almost year, I have given my life to creating this book. But this time it felt easy. This time it felt so ridiculously right. This time I knew that this book was going to be more than I could have ever imagined. And the first few lessons, they were tough to verbalize. I had to dig deep into the depths of my being to find those feelings that I chose to ignore long ago. I had to scrutinize each memory from a completely new perspective. I had to examine everything I have ever thought I knew so that I could tell the truth about living my life as a food addict and why it was there in the first place. I let you know everything, as much as I can possibly remember anyway. Once I got into the flow of writing, it became easier to get it all out. It was actually cathartic. It was healing and liberating. And for the past 5 years or so, I have been working diligently to rid myself of anything that I don't like about myself. And my food addiction was top of the list. But to do that, I first had to go within to the upper layers of who I was and question it all, but with love and kindness. Not the usual hate and self-loathing that I was completely used to. And these 10 lessons come from that questioning. They come from learning about myself and my food addiction in a way that honored what I had been through and why I cannot change the past. I cannot change the person I was. I realize I can only learn from all I have been through and use every bit of information I have discovered to ignite the change. I had to keep it going. I had to keep it going. I just had to, because I was just desperate to feel better. I was so exhausted from hating myself and feeling miserable every single day that drove the desire just as much as everything else. And I do believe that my life was set out before me before I was born. Not all of it, but my food addiction happened to me with the hopes that I would one day do what I am doing now, sharing it with all of you and offering up my lessons so that you may find your own lessons. Find your own lessons amongst the beautiful mess of your own life. So it was never about the food. There were deeper mental and emotional reasons that gave me permission to make my food addiction take center stage for really just an audience of one. And I have no idea if anyone ever suspected that I had a food addiction, or if they just thought I was a big fat pig and I loved food way too much, because I kept it hidden. I mean, how do you even explain something like that to another person? Because food addiction isn't looked at the same as other addictions. Though there are plenty of judgments thrown around for any type of addiction, because people have their own opinions, but they will never know the reasons a person becomes a food addict in the first place, to either drugs, alcohol, shopping, gambling, anything else. Because the reasons are varied and they are very, very personal. The person in the addiction, in the midst of all of what is going on, may not even fully comprehend it themselves. Because I know I didn't until I stepped past my fear to take a closer look, take a much closer look, because I couldn't be afraid of myself anymore. I couldn't be scared of who I was and getting to know myself underneath all of that mess and all of that gunk. If I wanted to feel better, then I had to find the courage to jump right into all of that mess, to dig deep and dig around and throw away anything I didn't like about myself and replace them with those thoughts and feelings that felt better, because I did actually deserve that, even though they felt really icky. So here I am, letting you know about this book I have written. This book is my story, and it has been a wonderful experience, because as a teenager, I used to sit in my bedroom and I used to love writing. My favorite thing at the time was trying to write the best teenage romance novel out there. And I would dream of one day finally publishing my own book. And of course, the topic is very different to those fun little teenage romance novels. This book is meant for you too. If you have a food addiction and you recognize that within yourself, or if you find a resonance with the contents of this book, please know that I did write it with you in mind as well. And I'd like to read you the opening paragraphs of the first lesson. It was never about the food. I used to think all of my troubles were the fault of my parents, that everything I was because of them. They were shit parents. My mother was full of anger and my father was complacent. He checked out, lived as if we were not a part of his life. I blamed them for the fatness of my body. I blamed them for my own anger. I blamed them for the hopeless and uninspiring person I believed myself to be. In the 12 years I participated in my childhood are ones of variation, with so many imbalances and contradictions coming into play. I could never be assured of direction, meaning, or intention. It felt as though the consistency of the life I was growing up in was unable to find its way to the place we all longed for: happiness and love. There were some moments of joy, swiftly followed by moments of anger. No, I'm not going to do it. There were moments of joy, swiftly followed by moments of anger. There were moments of compassion, swiftly followed by moments of frustration. There were moments of love, swiftly followed by moments of abandonment. It was up and down, never knowing which one was coming next. As a little girl, I wanted to be loved by the two people I trusted the most. I wanted their time and attention. It was there, but it was also restrained when, I'm guessing now as a more informed adult, that they were having their own internal struggles and traumas to deal with. As a child, though, I was inept at knowing this about the mum and dad in front of me. How was I supposed to know that they had their own traumas to deal with? Which is why all of the inconsistencies affected me so deeply. I took them to heart. Their pain became my pain. Their frustration became my frustration. Their anger became my anger. And their inability to love themselves reflected straight back into the heart of an unsure little girl. I felt they abandoned me. I felt as though every single one of their departures from what I needed as a little girl was because I was not worthy of their love. So by the time I was 14 years old, the weight on my mind began to show itself physically. Internally, I underwent a transformation so paralyzing and so debilitating that it affected me for the next 30 years. I couldn't see straight anymore. My vision was blurred by hatred and self-loathing. Two emotions allowed to run amok and grow wildly without any thought of being able to stop them thriving in such delicate conditions. And how did I deal with all of this emotional turmoil? I ate. I ate myself stupid. The food was my comfort. It became my friend. It was a fucked up friendship. But now my relationship with food has changed. I love food, not for the comfort it can give me, but for the joy of its deliciousness. I eat with love. I eat with guidance. I eat by listening to my loving voice rather than the hurt and hatred I only ever allowed myself ever to feel. This book does not replace your own guidance. This book is the encouragement and strength you need to find your own way of healing. I do include kind and loving questions to ask of yourself, but they are only to be done if you have the strength to find the answers. Please do not answer them if you feel you cannot. Or it's maybe more than okay to embrace that feeling of weakness and find the strength within to face yourself head on. Because it is there inside of you, whether you believe it is or not. I once believed I had the answers for everyone, but thankfully I have been shown that everyone has their own answers. They can be found within each of us. They can be found within you. Always, your loving voice will guide you to them. All you have to do is ask. And then, most importantly, listen. So as a thank you for purchasing My Food Addiction and Me, I have included a number of supportive workbooks to guide you and get you started. Once again, please only use these workbooks if you feel you are able to. I understand not everyone will be like I was at the beginning of my self-discovery. I actually wasn't all that strong, but I did continue to find the strength as the days went on and the months flew by. If it feels right for you to purchase this book, then you can do so via my website. It's going to be released on September 2nd. But you can pre-order the book before and it's going to be delivered straight to you once it's released. So thank you so much for taking the time to listen to these words. It has truly been an honor to write this book and I am so thrilled that I now get to share it with you and the world, warts and all. So it is time to honour yourself and find your own lessons. They are there waiting for you.